Hello, everyone. This is Stephanie Scott. Thanks for tuning in for the Water Leaders informational webinar. If you are logged on, you should be, one, hearing my voice through your phone or computer, however you chose to dial in. And you should also be viewing the screen. Right now, there is a beautiful banner of our Water Leaders program and a title slide. So if you cannot see that, or if you see that but are having trouble hearing me, you can type into your questions box. It should be on your screen somewhere. Let me know that you're having technical difficulties. Otherwise, we will begin here in a minute. We're just waiting for everyone to log in. Right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, this is Stephanie Scott, and I will be running this webinar for the next hour with all of you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time, for chiming in today, as well as thank you for your interest in this program. We're going to cover hopefully all of the questions that you have about the program and more to help you prepare and sort of guide you through the application process if you have all those questions. So, a couple housekeeping things before we kick off and get started. Everyone on the phone is currently muted, and that is for crowd control, sort of background noise control purposes. If you have a question at any time or technical difficulties, you can type in your question or prompt, whatever it may be, into the question dialog box and or the chat function. Either one I can see when they pop up. So if you need to try to communicate with me at any point throughout here, go ahead and type it in there, and I will reach back out to you as I can to address the question or technical difficulty. With that, we will have a significant amount of time at the end for questions that we may have not covered. So we'll probably have about an hour on the phone together. We buffered an extra 15 minutes just in case we go over that, but you can plan on about an hour being on the phone with us today. Throughout that time, you can ask any question that you want. I will be sort of going through all of the questions and queuing them up for that Q&A section, so we're not going to take time to answer those during the webinar. But if you have a question, type it in the question box. I promise we will answer it. Even if you have to jump off of the call, then still ask the question and we will address it. This call, the whole webinar is being recorded. So everyone that is registered will get a live recording of this sent to them this afternoon. That includes not only the slides, so the slides will be sent to you so you don't have to frantically take notes the whole time, as well as the audio. So you can view it whenever you want after this. It's a YouTube link, so it's accessible. It's no big deal. So back to the question piece. If you have questions, enter them at any time. I promise we will answer them at the end. Even if you can't stay on, you will get the answers to your questions in the recording. So let's see, any other housekeeping stuff? I don't think so. So with that, let's get started. So I'm Stephanie Scott. I know a lot of you. Some of you on the list for the webinar are new, so that's awesome. I look forward to meeting you at some point. I am the Leadership Programs Manager for Water Education Colorado. I have been on board as staff here since 2016, so this will be my third year running programs for Water Education Colorado. I myself am a graduate of the Water Leaders program. I graduated in 2015. So coming into this role, I was very excited to be able to partner with Cheryl to facilitate this program. And it has been very rewarding over the past, since 2015 to not only have gone through the program and realize the benefits of the program as a participant, but now being able to facilitate the program and see the benefit that the program has for our classes since I have taken over. So very excited that I get to do this as a job. If you can't tell, I'm a little excited. So if my enthusiasm is a little too much, I don't apologize. It's awesome, and I'm excited to talk about it. So before we get into water leaders, I'm just going to really quickly go over who Water Education Colorado is, what we do, just to give you a little bit of context on how Water Leaders plays into our bigger picture and what our role is across the state as an organization. We are formally the Colorado Foundation for Water Education. About a year ago, we released our brand new name and our brand new brand to the state in an effort to expand our reach and expand our audience. You'll see on the screen here, this is our new logo. If you aren't familiar with what our logo is, it is a artistic representation of all of the major water basins, river basins across the state. So you can sort of playfully select which area of Colorado you come from. But our goal as an organization is to promote a better understanding of what Colorado water is. We are the only statewide nonprofit promoting water education around the state. And we do that in a variety of different ways. We have two main program areas. We have our content programs, which is displayed on your screen right now. So our main ways that we get out some content, water education, in a print or screen form are our citizens guides. These are a series of handbooks that any individual can pick up and dive deeper into a complex water topic in 30 to 40 pages and feel like they have a better understanding to discuss, make decisions, just be informed about that topic. So some of these are, where does your water even come from? A guide to conservation, water quality, like what does that look like in the state? Our most popular guide is an introduction to Colorado water law. For anyone in the water world, we know that water law is very complex. So here's a snapshot of what that looks like for everyone. These are used in educational programs, in classrooms, universities, in libraries. Staff uses them for training materials across the state, that type of thing. So that's our Citizens Guide series. We also have our Headwaters magazine. We distribute that 3 to 4 times a year. Each issue dives into, again, a specific water topic. The one on the screen right now was our issue on ATMs or alternative transfer mechanisms. And these go out to all of our members. So it's a membership benefit. So if you're a member, you get this in your mail box. You can also purchase them in large quantities for audiences, that type of thing. So that's our Headwaters magazine. And our newest content program is Freshwater News. So if you're members or you have signed up for our Freshwater News subscription, you will receive this in your inbox every Wednesday. So this is a brand new news initiative that we have hired Jerd Smith onto our staff, and she is covering water news all across the state and producing weekly digest of what water news is happening, writing our own stories. We're creating water news content here in-house for the first time ever. So if you have great ideas on what water news should be covered, you can send that our way and Jerd will look into it. So those are our content programs. And then the second piece of our work that we do, so we have the content programs I just went over, and then we have more of our experiential programs. So these are the leadership and education programs. In the past, I have run both of these. This year, I'm just taking on the leadership programs, which is exciting. Our two leadership programs are Water Leaders and Water Fluency. Water Leaders, we've described that as a program to advance the leadership skills of water professionals, versus Water Fluency, which we describe as advancing the water knowledge of existing community leaders. So the difference between the two in a snapshot is Water Leaders, which we're going to learn more about, is a professional development opportunity for existing water professionals and providing them leadership skills, where Water Fluency is for city council members, city or county staff people, teachers, educators, people that are sort of educating or doing work, making decisions on water issues in their community, but they haven't formally been trained on water at all. And so this is more of the technical water knowledge that we're providing to people that are making decisions in their community. So that program happens every year. This year we're pushing it back. It'll run from July to August. September is time frame, and we are having that in the Denver metro area this year. It rotates around the state, so this year we're bringing it back for the first time in 4 years to the Denver metro area. Then we also have tours and workshops. So we have a variety of workshops throughout the year. Go online to our brand new website to check out what we're doing with workshops. Our flagship tour that we do every year is a 2-day tour that we rotate around a different river basin every year. This year it happens we are also bringing that back to the South Platte Basin because we haven't been back here in about 12 years, I believe, and that'll happen in June, so stay tuned for that. And that's where we get on a bus with a whole bunch of awesome people wanting to learn about what's happening in the basin, including the Interim Water Committee for the state legislature, and we explore together. So that's awesome and fun. And then our last final major pillar of our experiential programs is the Water Educator Network. This is a network of any form of water educator, whether you work for municipality doing outreach and education, if you're a school teacher, if you work for a university, both formal and non-formal opportunities to come together to share resources, share best practices. We have workshops and training specifically geared towards water educators. And this year is exciting. We are spearheading the first ever effort to create a statewide water education action plan, so helping to guide the future of moving together as a state to collectively impact and take on water education. And so if you're interested in getting looped into that effort, reach out to us and let us know. So today, you guys are all here to learn about water leaders. We have a pretty packed webinar planned for you today, and this is what we're going to be covering. So we'll go over what is water leaders, what you as a participant could expect for water leaders. You can wrap your head around what that looks like, making sure you still want to apply for the program. We have 2 alumni from our class last year that are on the phone, and they're going to be, providing a little bit of perspective from the participant's point of view on what applying should look like, and give you some pointers there on what the program meant to them. I'll review the application process so you feel confident about what you're doing between now and January 7th when it's due. We'll talk a little bit about the financial commitment and payments and all that fun stuff, and then we'll have time for Q&A. All right, so this is it. So what is Water Leaders? I believe I could say with confidence that no one really ever went through a water project process and walked out saying, like, wow, that was easy. And I think that's just a nod to this idea that navigating water in Colorado is very complex. And we feel that if we can provide training, this professional development opportunity that's custom to water professionals, that we are impacting the future of water by helping navigate these complex situations. And so our goal is to develop that pipeline of leaders that will sustain water in the future. So Water Leaders was developed in 2006, was the first year, and it has gone through its ebbs and flows of facilitators that have facilitated the program, but we have been fortunate to find and land on Cheryl Benedict, who is our consultant, our facilitator. She's with Morph Consulting, and she's been with us for now 8 years facilitating this program. And since 2006, we have really worked every year to evolve the program to incorporate skills that are currently needed to navigate water challenges. So every year we have new challenges, we have new conversations that are happening, and the program really is designed to keep up to date with what's happening, and Cheryl helps us do that. So I mentioned briefly, she's been with us for 8 years, providing her expertise and guidance. Cheryl is really the core of the program. I definitely would say that year after year, I get most comments about, oh, I wish I could just have Cheryl on speed dial forever. She has helped so much, and she provides such insight to each of the participants individually, which is amazing. And we're very lucky to have her. She's been essential to developing this program, and she was my coach back when I was in Water Leaders in 2015, and it's been such a joy to collaborate with her since she was my coach, and the evolution of our relationship is now we get to facilitate this together. And so we have a lot of fun. And I don't know, I could go on and on about how awesome Cheryl is, but I'm going to let her take over for this next section. So she's going to tell us a little bit more about herself and what expertise she brings to the program. And then she's going to dive into the expectations of what Water Leaders is going to look like this year to give you an idea of what exciting adventure you're getting into if you get accepted into the program. So Cheryl, are you there? Can you hear me?
Stephanie, I am. I'm experiencing, and I think the other presenters are too, a bit of a computer glitch. We're not seeing your slideshow advance. We're just seeing your screen from the very first. So I'm wondering if you can make an adjustment where you are.
Well, that's, let me see. So are you seeing my mouse move?
I am, yeah, but it's just moving on the very first slide.
Okay. So on my screen, it's showing my home screen as a different screen. So let me see if I can change this really quick. Sorry about that. Nope.
I'll go ahead and start, and you can, there we are. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone.
Oh, no, that's great. So as Stephanie was saying, this is the 8th year for me getting to facilitate the Colorado Water Leaders program. And what's really unique about this program is that it's a 6-month program that compresses largely what you would get in a 1-year program if your company were to invest in providing it for the leaders in your firm. And so you can imagine that it's taking a 1-year program and compressing it down into 6 months. It makes it just that much more demanding and that much more intense. And I know Stephanie alluded to that, but I want to reiterate that. My background, just so you know, is that I've got a degree in communications and also a degree in psychology with a master certificate in organizational development. And after I was in a number of leadership roles, I got to move to Ireland with my brand new husband for 3 years. And when we came back to the States, I thought, I really want to do a job where I get to help grow leaders. And so I got certified as a career coach, did that for a number of years, and then got certified as an executive coach, which I've been doing for 20 years, which means that I have the amazing opportunity to work with senior leaders and emerging leaders, and that's been my life, and I love it. The past 15 years, I've specialized in predominantly engineering and architecture design firms, and then the last 8 years, specifically water firms, water leadership companies, engineering firms. And as I was saying earlier, typically a company will create a year-long leadership program, but what's really unique about Water Leaders is that you get to interact with leaders from all over Colorado in a variety of different roles. And not only will you connect with them in a way probably deeper than you could ever imagine, but you'll also learn so much about the aspect of water that is within their purview. And so I have to just say this program is going to demand from you the best you can give. It's going to call forth your highest and best, requiring you to take ownership and commitment and dedication to yourself in the process. And I would say if I was just going to say 3 words, that it's important to trust the process. When you finally get to session 4, you'll look back and go, wow, I am so glad that I took the time to make myself the priority because it's worth it. Next slide, please. So what are the expectations to be in this program? Well, I've already said one of them, and that is that you take ownership of your own experience. Honestly, what you put in, you'll get out. And if you put your whole self in, It may be 10 times harder than you would have ever guessed, but it's 100 times more worth it. The return on your investment and the return on the time that you devote to homework and preparation, thinking about it afterwards, possibly teaching the people back at work about what you've learned. It can enrich not only your own professional life, but also those that you come into contact with. So it's a highly personal endeavor, but I would recommend, if it's appropriate, to get others involved who you connect with at work, whether it's your supervisor or those around you. You may decide that there's a behavior that you'd like to refine or strengthen or work on to make you an even more effective leader. Having a chance to interact with people around you to say, hey, George, I'm working on presentation skills. Would you mind giving me feedback on how I'm doing? Because this is the aspect I'm working on. So being able to engage with people you work with as skilled observers to give you feedback can be invaluable. Also, the third point is that you will get to know me very well, because we have a coaching meeting every month where we're talking about specifically what are you up against, what are the difficult situations that are challenging, what's the terrain that you have to navigate, and it's customized to you. And so with each coaching call, you come prepared to say, Cheryl, here's what I'm up against. What do you think? And I take on the role of trusted advisor, coach, and support. Next slide, please. How do leaders develop? Over the last 20 years, leaders have said to me a variety of responses that fit into these three categories. They learn through education, training, and learning new things. They call it sharpening the saw. They learn through coaching or mentoring, either within the organization or externally. And they develop through on-the-job experience. For some, it's sink or swim, and that's not as much fun. It's better to be coached and mentored while you're trying new things. But there's nothing like having to do something new, to develop new skills, new competencies in the bones experience, to be able to own it and make it yours. So we build all three of these into the Water Leadership Program. Next slide. So what to expect? You notice we start April 11th and we finish August 9th with a marvelous celebratory graduation where you invite family and friends. But what happens between April 12th and August 9th is quite a journey that Mark and Kate, who are our alumni from last year's program, will speak to. The very first program, the very first session is focused on you as a leader. It takes navel gazing to a whole new level. It's looking at yourself through the level of, what are the things I care about as a leader? How do I respond in these different situations? It looks at emotional intelligence. IQ, your intelligence, is what gets you hired. But then as you progress throughout your career, that becomes a given. And it becomes your EQ, your emotional intelligence, that becomes an increasingly greater predictor of your success. Well, what is emotional intelligence? Its self-awareness is bedrock. How well do I know myself? Then self-management becomes part two. How well am I able to manage myself when I am triggered? Can I stop myself from doing something that I will live to regret? Can I stop myself from saying something that I'm dying to say that I know will backfire and will live on through perpetuity? So there's self-awareness, there's self-management. But then when we move into session 2 in Redstone, which many water leaders say becomes one of their all-time favorite locations because the internet is limited and it's a real chance to bond, we start to look at the next part of emotional intelligence, which is, how do you navigate with others? How well do you know others? How well are you able to engage in creative problem solving? How well are you able to navigate change not only for yourself, but for those you're connected to, not only at work, but at home? And then when we continue to session 3 and we look at communication, that becomes the theme. I'll never forget when I was sitting in my entry-level communications course and Dr. Larry Lunsford said, "Kids, it's not communication until you are sure that your message has been received in the manner in which you sent it." Wow. That made me realize that communication is not just one way. You have to pay amazing attention to the person receiving the message to make sure they got it, to make sure they're not defensive, to make sure it's being received the way you intended. So we spend an entire 2 days looking at communication through the lens of how can we skillfully navigate communication in challenging, stressful situations. And then constructive conflict. How can we bring out the best in situations that involve conflict when sometimes people are at their all-time worst? So it takes us 2 sessions to lead up to that level of intensity, because as you know, the world of water brings with it a lot of competing interests and a lot of conflict. And actually being able to navigate conflict could be bedrock to your success moving forward. And then the final session is in Denver, where we're talking about how do you build a community water of practice. How do you build a water community of practice, and how do you create a plan for moving forward? Next slide. So here it is in a nutshell. There are 4 key assessments that are going to help you do a deeper dive into yourself as a leader. Then there's opportunities to work one-on-one with a coach to create a personal growth project and focus on your professional career development. There's opportunities every month to interact in a cohort group, which is you, 3 other participants led by either Stephanie or myself, where we ask the question every time, what are you up against personally? What are you up against professionally? And you get to share it in greater depth than you can during the program. And you get to hear from the rest of us on lessons learned, things that we've tried, battle scars, things that haven't worked. So you end up getting to create your own board of trusted advisors to help you navigate the challenges along the way. You will have an opportunity to identify who are 2 water leaders in Colorado that you'd like to learn more from, that you would like to enter into a shadowing relationship with, which many water leaders say has been such a highlight of their experience, and those relationships continue on way past water leaders. There's homework, of course. We have leader unplugged sessions where you get to hear from former water leaders talking about, here's the behind the scenes, close the door, highly confidential. Here's really what happened in that situation, and here's what I learned, which is intriguing and fascinating. We do a 360 exercise where if you want to, you can get feedback from other people in your world about yourself as a leader. And it almost goes without saying that the networking and the relationship building becomes such an important, crucial part of this experience. Next slide. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much, Cheryl. That was an amazing overview of what the program is. And if you guys have additional questions, go ahead and type them in now. I do want to take a minute. I apologize for the technical difficulties. My screen was showing that it was working, so sorry about that. To sort of make sure that you guys didn't miss anything, I don't historically send out the slides to everyone, but I will make sure to send the slides in the follow-up email so you can see those few slides that you missed. Good news is it was a lot of pictures and just some overview of our program, so you didn't miss anything that was pertinent to the Water Leaders program, but you will get the slides in a follow-up email. So again, I apologize, and thanks everyone for sending in those questions, comments to cue me on that. Sorry, I missed it. Anyways, back to the webinar. So acceptance requirements. I'm going to cover a little bit of this. We have a lot of information on our website, but I wanted to review it all with you here. So how do we at Water Education Colorado define a leader? And I'm going to read this. I know it's tacky to just read slides, but this is really where we're at with this program. So Water Education Colorado defines a leader as someone who is dedicated to and is focused on the greater good of water in Colorado. A leader recognizes the value of collaboration and respect and is open to diverse perspectives. I will dive into really what a leader looks like as far as different professions around the water world in a little bit, but really this is our broad definition of how we see leaders that enter into our program. We do have a handful of minimum requirements just to sort of to make sure that you are thinking, if you're wondering, am I right for this program? Here's just some guidelines on some minimum requirements that we would like to see people coming to the program with. So our first one is a proven past commitment. We do not have an upper limit on how many years you could have been in the water profession or an upper sort of position limit. We have a lot of people that are managers or general managers or sort of on like an organization chart. You are already the top person, and so we don't have an upper limit for either position or amount of time you've been in the water industry, but we do have a lower limit, and that lower limit has been set to 3 years, and really it goes to the value add to a person that is new to a whole industry or to a job and is not really immersed in the water culture in Colorado. There's just not as much value add to that person. And so we suggest, getting your feet wet a little bit in the industry before you apply to the program, because it will add more value to you and what you actually receive from the program. So 3-year minimum, working in the water industry is our minimum requirement for past commitment to water. We also have a proven future commitment. And so in the application, we like to see that you have an interest in, sticking around in the water community for a while. Again, back to our mission is that we are looking to develop a pipeline of leaders within the water community. And so whatever that role may be, we all sort of grow in our profession, and so it may not be at the same role or even the same organization, but that you have a desire to continue working to better the water community here in Colorado. We like to see that sort of intertwined with your application answers. Proven sphere of influence. So I would say this is like the biggest stickler, sort of the biggest question I get is, if I'm not managing people, am I a leader? And I think that, yes, of course you are. The short answer to that is yes. I think we often sort of look at a leader as someone that is like the top of their org chart or managing people, but that is not the case here. So we define a sphere of influence. So we are really looking for people that are influencing water in some way. So it could be managing people, of course, so you can bring what you learned back to your staff or back to your team and your organization and infuse the learnings of water leaders into your organizational culture and water happenings within your organization. But this also definitely can be applied outside of your organization. So if you are working on a board or you're part of a work group in your community and you have a leadership role in any capacity that is influencing how water is being managed locally, then we say you have the leadership qualities within your sphere of influence. So, a question to answer yourself is, does your voice or your role have an impact on the decisions made in your community or across the state because you're on part of a targeted work group or a board or something like that? And again, managing projects in your area, they're going to be influential. That's definitely, yes, you're a leader if you're managing projects. So I hate when people sort of get held up on the idea that if I'm not managing people, I'm not a leader. And I want to encourage you all and empower all of you to think beyond that and think of your true scope, your true sphere of influence in the water community, and add those tidbits to your application. So Colorado Focus, we do limit applications to Colorado residents and who are primarily working on water issues in Colorado. I think that's pretty straightforward. And full engagement. Cheryl spoke to this a little bit, that you have to be ready to apply yourself. This is not a networking opportunity first and foremost. The networking opportunities that Cheryl spoke about are definitely a byproduct of the program. Obviously, you will get very close with the people in your class, but also speakers and your shadowing experience, whoever you choose to shadow. All these people will become a part of your water network, but it is definitely a byproduct. So in order to really fully benefit from this program, we are hoping that you are coming ready to engage fully. And if you are not ready to do that, then I would say pretty bluntly that this is not the time for you to apply to the program. And I will also say that it is obvious if you do not apply yourself in the program to both Cheryl and I, as well as the other participants. And so people that aren't, being vulnerable, really looking into the assessments, trying to make change, implementing what we're learning throughout the program. If you're not doing that, it's pretty obvious. And so just if you are not ready to take that on, then don't apply at this time. I mean, I think maybe in the future, maybe you could be ready for that full engagement, but it really is, the more you invest, the more you get out of it. And I think none of us can say that more. We can continue to enforce this piece of full engagement. So we made it a minimum requirement that you are ready to do that. All right, and this is speaks to just the commitment as far as showing up. You do have to be in attendance at all the in-person training sessions. Cheryl went through all the other different sort of external things that you will be committing to, including cohort meetings and the shadowing experiences, all of that stuff. We will, at the first session, schedule most of the cohort calls and all that stuff that happens inter-session, so that you guys can put that on your calendar, and we'll work that around your existing schedules at the time of session 1. But other than that, yes, 100% commitment. You will complete all the homework, all the assignments, all that stuff. So we make that a minimum requirement that you have to acknowledge that you are agreeing to do so. So who should apply? Here are some questions that we've come up with that you should ask yourself. One thing I do want to note before I get into these questions is that we only accept one person per organization in each class. So if you have multiple people per your organization that are interested in applying, you guys would be competing against each other if you both did submit an application. And so we ask that you guys work that out internally and decide who from your organization would be applying for that year, because you will only one person will be accepted. So I just wanted to note that, because we've had some duplicates from organizations apply in the past. So here's some questions you can ask yourself. Does your job predominantly focus on water-related issues in Colorado? If so, then yes, you should apply. Do you currently manage or have future ambition to manage staff or projects? So again, this is, if you don't manage staff, that's fine. If you don't manage projects, that's fine. But beyond your current leadership abilities, are you looking to move into that role? And are you looking for the opportunity to assess your leadership style, skills, all the things that Cheryl mentioned that you would learn? So are you really ready to take this on right now in your personal and professional life? And do you have space to actually commit to the program? If so, then yes, you should apply. You are open to guidance from an executive coach. So for people that have not had executive coach experience before, Cheryl gives it to you how it is, and sometimes it can be hard to acknowledge things about yourself and work on personal things, but the outcome is so rewarding. And so if you're not open to that process, nothing's going to change. And so if you are open to working with Cheryl and diving into the rest of the Water Leaders process, then yes, you should apply. Saying this is our future commitment, so do you have that desire to continue to focus on water in Colorado? Yes. And then this is, have you been working in your job for at least 3 years? Yes. So if you've answered yes to all these questions, or most of them, then yes, you should apply for the program. Here's just a review real quick of what our past participants have looked like. So we've had 158 students, graduates of the Water Leaders program to date. Here is a breakdown of West Slope versus East Slope participants. And here's some of the main categories of the different professional sectors that typically apply for the program. So we're always looking to bring diverse professions, diverse perspectives, diverse geography into the program. It is part of our scoring that we do to enhance the dialogue and everything else that happens as part of the program. So diversity is one thing that we really do pay attention to when we are making the class, just because it adds so much. So that's what our past Water Leaders participants have looked like. And here's just some stats for you guys as far as what our past Water Leaders have said about the program. I think one thing, the green quote here, the 97% would tell potential participants that the program was worth the cost. We had one participant last year, and he mentioned during the program that when he was deciding to whether or not to enroll in the program, and some of the funding was going to be personal that he was going to have to put towards for the program, someone told him that any time that you invest in yourself, it is worth the investment. And I think that quote or that advice that was given to him really rang true for what this program is. So anytime that you really take a break from work, from your personal life, to really dive into improving yourself is always going to be worth the time. And I think that 97% of alumni that have agreed with that is really true. So if you're trying to get some support from your employer to either take the time out of work to do it or whatever it may be, we have a high percentage of people saying that, yes, this is worth every minute of it. So if you need more stats or more reassurance, I got plenty for you. Here's, again, some quotes. Some of the highlights here is a lot of people graduate from the program with confidence. They have this new burst of energy and this confidence to move forward either in their current role or new roles that they are seeking, in whatever that may look like, a deeper understanding of themselves. So your personality, your strengths, your blind spots, really it's just this greater awareness of yourself. You'll see as a thread through a lot of these quotes, you are more fulfilled and thriving in your workplace because you can own it, you know what you bring, you're empowered by your role, your expertise, this newfound appreciation for yourself and how you show up in your workplace. And let's see, I think this last one here, it says they benefit from it every day. That is totally true. What you learn in this program, we advertise it as a professional development program, but really it is professional as well as personal. The things you learn, you will be able to take home and communicate better with your family, create more work-life balance. That's a big thread that we have worked on in the last couple of years. And you really do use the skills and the training that we provide on a daily basis, and it just becomes part of the new normal for you. And this last question, or this last quote here, talks about professional connections and lifelong friends, and that is totally true as well. We've hit on the networking piece. You will for sure grow your network, but that network is going to be deep. Like, these are lifelong friends that you are sharing things with. You learn things about them. You will never have relationships professionally like you have with your class and specifically your cohort that you go through this program with. So it's really multi-beneficial in so many areas of your life. So with that, we will hear directly from some alumni and what this program has meant to them. So let me quickly, I will open up their phone line. So our first alumni that we are going to hear from is Mark. Let me see. So this is Mark. You can't see him, but here's his wonderful picture, so you can imagine he is talking to you. He currently works with Leonard Rice Engineers as a project manager, and he has been on staff there for, I believe, 12 years. He specializes in regional planning and hydraulic analysis, supporting water supply planning all across Colorado. His two passions that he loves working on in his work is advancing regional rainwater systems for viable water supply, as well as applying technology to support decision-making and create sustainable water use. He has an awesome family who we got to meet last year, and we got to hear a lot about his hunting and fishing expeditions throughout the year as well. So, Mark, are you there?
I am.
Cool. All right. So I have, so real quick, before he starts, so I have asked each of both Mark and Kate to describe to us how the Water Leaders Program has impacted their career as a water professional in Colorado. And so Mark is going to be speaking to that question, and then we will hand the mic over to Kate. So take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Stephanie. So as a Myers-Briggs type of INTJ, I have to stick to the script here. Stephanie gave me several questions that kind of prompt what the Water Leaders Program really meant to me and how it impacted my career. So the first question she asked was, what were your expectations of the program, and was it actually, or versus what it actually was? And all I can say is I am extremely envious of your position that you are in today. I knew the program would be helpful to me, but until I was sitting there listening to Cheryl and Stephanie, taking a deep dive, as Cheryl would say, you really can't understand what the experience is all about. This experience is not something that can be recreated and is unique to each class. I think if I could take the Water Leaders class again, I would. Although the content would be similar, the group dynamic and others' perspectives are what makes the experience really special. The amazing part of the program is it really does apply to everybody, no matter where you're at in your career or personally or professionally. It provides insight and perspective about the challenges that you're facing today, but also it provides you some tools for the challenges that you likely will experience. In the end, this program exceeded my expectations. So another question that Stephanie asked as far as unexpected outcomes. So Stephanie already kind of talked about this, but I'm a person that really values long-term real connections with people, as most of us do. In most situations and personal development environments, it's really hard to take a deep dive with others in your class and get to a level of trust where you feel like you can be vulnerable. So one of the unexpected outcomes was the people involved in this program bring their very best selves. Therefore, the introspection and relationships that you built are really authentic. And the best part is that these people are also your peers and part of the water industry. So they'll be with you to support you in your career, throughout your career. Another question Stephanie asked, how do you have, how have you used your classmates or partners or presenters from the Water Leaders class? The people that are in the class got where they are because of who they are. You are surrounded with goal-oriented, like-minded individuals that also have a wealth of emotional intelligence and experience to share. And that right there is really the price of admission. Since graduating, I've already, continually relied on my cohort for support. And every time I meet with our cohort, I get kind of excited actually to talk with these folks and share my experiences, hear from them, and celebrate both their challenges and as well as their celebrate their challenges, and help them figure out how I can help them in their life. Another question here, Stephanie asks, is how have you used the skills taught during the Water Leaders in your personal and professional life since graduating? So since graduating, I think Stephanie said it, is every day I kind of look at the introspection and a lot of the things that we did regarding learning about yourself, just personally, and understanding what motivates you, and then also like she said, some of those blind spots. So from a personal perspective, I use that stuff every day. As far as professionally, most recently I led a company-wide professional development session about the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which is one of the probably the first things you guys will do in your first session. The principles and information presented in that book really helped company-wide. Each of our teams really identify the areas that they could improve, and also helped us to kind of figure out and align some of the team and company objectives. So next, how has this impacted your career trajectory and future ambition to serve on boards, committees, and apply yourself in the water community? Water Leaders program has made me hungry. I mean, truly, like she said, call it confidence, call it motivation. Gaining clarity and purpose, or at least some sort of a waypoint of where you are in your life, is really powerful. One of my favorite sessions that we did was our last session, Finding Your Why. I'm not going to go into detail about what the session really is, but the result is essentially a single statement that clearly and definitively describes why you are on this earth and what your real purpose is. The statement becomes essentially a centroid of who you are and allows you to define your goals and personal professional trajectory from there forward. And that was certainly one of my favorite parts of this experience. Next question. You can include, or you can include how the program has impacted your personal life as well as your professional life. So most people may not feel comfortable sharing what they personally got from this program, but for me, it was almost a number one driver from the very first day. And really, it was wanting me to take, a real reason for me to take the class and helping me get my priorities straight. And work-life balance is something that I've always struggled with. So during the first session, we took a simple survey of our personal life and where we are and where we want to be. And that was really eye-opening to me and helped me establish what was really important in my life. So taking that time and sharing and then sharing it with my family really helps set the stage for a lot of my personal as well as professional goals of really what's important. And then the last thing that I'd like to add is I really truly believe that Water Leaders is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's a chance for you to really create space for yourself, to evaluate who you are personally, professionally, and ultimately who you really want to become. And that opportunity in today's world is really rare, and there's really nothing else like it. So, Stephanie.
Great. That was awesome, Mark. Thank you so much for your very thoughtful responses and for sharing that with potential applicants. I am going to mute Mark for a minute. If you guys have questions specifically for him, please type them in. Otherwise, I will bring up our next class alumni from last year. So this is Kate Greenberg. She's joining us from Durango, and she works for the National Young Farmers Coalition. She's been with them since 2013, organizing ranchers and building advocates across the West for the agricultural community. Before that, she managed many environmental policy programs. She farmed. She worked to help restore the flows of the Colorado River Delta in Mexico. You can see here she has won many awards for her advocacy work across the state or across the country, and is also on the board of the how do you pronounce that, Kate? Quinavera? Let's see. Oh, she's not. Now she's unmuted. How do you pronounce that? Quivira?
That's the Quivira Coalition.
All right, awesome. That coalition. Kate was a breath of fresh air. She brought the adventure piece to our classes last year. You know, every time she checked in, we were all sort of like on our seats of, you know, what has Kate been up to and where has she been and what adventure did she take on? So with that, this is Kate, and she's going to give you her little testimony of what Water Leaders meant to her.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. It's really my pleasure to be on the call today, and a really honor to help represent our class and also get to speak to what Water Leaders meant for me personally and professionally for a couple minutes with you all today. Going into Water Leaders, I think I had very few expectations about what I was stepping into. I figured I would learn a thing or two, meet a few people, and see where it went from there. But really, it went places that I was not anticipating, and that have really shaped my life in unforeseen ways. I think one of the most unexpected outcomes was how much Water Leaders enabled me to bring together my personal and professional lives. From the first moment we started with our class, our first session on day one, Cheryl and Stephanie set the tone, which I think has been covered today, but I just want to reiterate about, you know, this is a place where this isn't a normal conference or training where you can expect to catch up on email while, you know, somebody else is speaking at you. This is a place where you're expected to show up with your full self, whatever that means in the moment, and be there with it amongst 17 others who are doing the same thing. And, you know, that means that all of life shows up in the classroom. And you're doing that with strangers out the gates, and it's an incredible journey what happens over the course of 6 months and 4 different sessions when you start out trusting your vulnerable side, your underbelly, to this cohort of strangers, and by the end you have developed what really has come for me to feel like a family. So I can't credit you know, Water Education Colorado and Cheryl and Stephanie enough with the weight of creating a space and an environment in which that is possible. My classmates are the bedrock of this work. I really did entrust my anxieties and fears and struggles with them, and it has been an incredible experience to feel carried and supported in this work. I think part of what I have known for a while, and one of the things I really realized through Water Leaders was how challenging it is for me to ask for help. I have, since going through the Water Leaders course, leaned on my classmates and especially my cohort, which is a smaller group subset within our full class, and learned how to ask for help. And I have to say that alone has changed my life and my both personally and professionally. It's also changed how I see the world and what I think is possible, because now I know I've got 17 more people in my corner ready to go to bat for me, and it doesn't matter what side of the table we're on or what walk of life we're in. We've developed the relationships that will allow us to to know that we've got the support system behind us and can kind of step out on a limb, take new risks, try new things, and we have a community to fall back on. I'd say with regards to the skill set that I took away from Water Leaders, the Cheryl mentioned emotional intelligence as sort of being a crux of what will determine long-term success. I am so grateful that that has been part of Water Leaders. I don't think we talked about water once. We really just talked about communication styles, our own, lots of different journeys into self-awareness, building greater awareness about who we are, how we operate, and how we do that amongst other people, amongst the team, and particularly amongst change and transition. I think one of the biggest skills, and this has become very pertinent in my professional life as my organization is going through some leadership transition, is understanding how different people respond to change, and as a leader and a manager, how to address that both within yourself and amongst the team. Those are extremely, extremely beneficial skills that you can get few other places in terms of leadership training. In terms of impact on my career, Water Leaders has helped me both see new opportunities and have the confidence, support, clarity, and purpose, like Mark was mentioning, to actually jump on those opportunities. I think I entered Water Leaders kind of wondering what might be next or be on the horizon for me. And while I still don't have a clear answer, I have a much broader suite of opportunities, and just with the ability to even think about how I could carry my skill set to other genres of work or other areas, arenas. Water Leaders really prepared me to be bold and creative in that vision. Really, I think at the bottom line to me, what Water Leaders is all about is this community, these people who are willing to show up with you and willing to bring them their full selves to the table. I think the power of self-reflection, of spending time on yourself, like Stephanie's talked about, and showing up completely is absolutely essential to our professional work in the water community, as well as it is at home and in our personal lives. And I think one of the most critical pieces in considering applying to the program is a willingness to hold steady through your own transformation, to be with yourself as you approach things that might be challenging or might create discomfort, and to do so in a way that is compassionate and curious. And I think Water Leaders really fosters that, and that is an incredible skill that we might not think about it all the time, and it is an incredible skill to be able to take back to the workplace and to an issue area as complex as water. So thank you, Stephanie and Cheryl, for giving me the time to say those things about Water Leaders today.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for willing to be so open as well. And with that, I'm just going to give a brief one final word from each of them. So I've asked them, to take a look back at a year ago when they were thinking about applying for this program, that what is one final takeaway that you would want to leave with the potential applicants on the phone to know or consider before applying? So with that, let's go with Kate, since you are unmuted. What's your one final word that you would like to leave with this group of potential applicants?
I'm going to put two final words into one sentence to make it into one. I would say be vulnerable, be willing to be vulnerable, to show up fully, baseline. Number two part of that sentence is if financial barrier or time barrier is too much of a barrier for you to access this program, there are, I think, avenues out there that could potentially be of support. Definitely getting your employer on board. There are other folks who are looking to resource this program, and I hope you would consider me as a resource as well to try and figure out how to make this accessible, especially for folks maybe farther away from some of these meeting areas.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kate. And Mark, your final word?
So I'm going to cheat as well. I'm sorry, I have more than one takeaway here. So the first one I have is, this is not an event; it's a process. Cheryl talked about this, and trusting in that process is everything. Water Leader provides you self-awareness, understanding about your strengths and weaknesses, and how the world perceives you. It also provides you tools, opportunities to explore your own emotional intelligence as a leader. But really, it's a starting point, and that's what I think a lot of us are looking for. And this experience is what you make it. And if you're willing to put in everything, you will not be disappointed. The last thing I wanted to say is this is really, really, really fun, and I would highly recommend being present and enjoying it. Like I said, this is a lifetime opportunity, and the value of the program far exceeds the expense. So what other opportunity really allows you to create a space for yourself with like-minded, committed people that are a part of your community? So I cannot say enough about how much this program meant.
Thanks so much, Mark. Great to hear. All right, so again, Mark, Cheryl, and Kate are all still going to be on the line. I'm going to go over the application process really quickly, and then we'll get into that question piece. So if you have questions, keep them coming. I've been documenting the questions as we go. But thank you again so much, Mark and Kate, for your insight on what the program looks like for attendees. I hope that was helpful for all of you. And you spoke to the program way better than Cheryl and I could. So thank you again for being here. And applying for the program. So if you're on this webinar, I'm sure you've seen our website with the application materials, and I'm going to go over what that looks like really quickly. So the application, sorry, real quick, I'm just make sure I'm muting everyone like I promised them I would. Okay, so the application process. So all applications are due January 7th. There is an online application that you have to complete. It's done through SurveyMonkey. The way the survey is done, you can't scroll through to see the questions unless you fill them out. So we have provided you a PDF online that you can click and download so you can see all the questions and type out your answers and copy and paste those into the SurveyMonkey form when you're ready, so you can complete the application. There is a word limit, so please adhere to the word limit, even though the form doesn't make you do that, but answers short and concise and to the point are the best application. So with that, you also have to submit 2 letters of recommendation. Those letters, if you need to give them my information, and all my contact information is on the form, but they need to send those letters of recommendation directly to me also by January 7th. Those cannot come from you. So those are the materials you have to submit by January 7th. The selection process, so from January 7th, we will kick off that. There is a whole committee that reviews the applications, and there's a scoring rubric that they all put your applications through. If there is any information that we want to follow up on, we will reach out to you for a follow-up phone interview, but most likely that won't happen. If you are accepted into the class, then you will be notified on February 15th of your acceptance into the program. And then we give you a week to decide if you want to accept that seat. So whether it's financial reasons or something's come up in your schedule, whatever it may be, we will let you have or notify you on the 15th, and you get back to us by the 22nd to confirm that your seat in the class. So pretty simple as far as the application process. If you have additional questions, let me know. What the financial commitment looks like, we'll cover that really quickly. So tuition for the program is $32.50 per person. The true value of this program, like you have heard, not only as far as value add to you personally, but the financial value is, it far exceeds about $6,500. So we've brought in sponsors and other funding to make this more affordable for participants. So it really is a true value for this tuition. Tuition does include all meals for the training, all the assessments, all the coaching. What it doesn't include is any travel or overnight hotel stays. So if you were looking to prepare a budget for what this looks like, I would recommend putting mileage in. We have the locations for all of the class sessions. So mileage you can put that into your budget. And we work to keep the hotel costs at or lower than $125 per night. So if you're looking to budget that as well, most of the time we say it's pretty much required to stay the evening in between. We have a group dinner that night, and there's a lot of the social networking that happens as a group together. So I would definitely budget like at least one night of hotel per session, and then it is up to you to decide if you would want to stay either the night before or the night after, depending on travel. We usually start each session at about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and so that is something to consider when looking to book a hotel the evening before or not. And then we try to wrap up day 2 around 3 o'clock, so there is time to travel back to wherever you're going in Colorado. So I think that covers the tuition and sort of some other maybe travel budget that you may or may not need for the program. We do have a limited number of scholarships. There is a section on the application. I think it's like 200-word statements on needs. So why do you need a scholarship to help support your acceptance into the program, whether that's travel or, work does not have a budget for it. Whatever your need is, put that in the statement. I will say that the scholarship funds aren't a huge chunk of money, so this may help cover some travel costs, but it's not going to, definitely won't cover your full tuition. And so just sort of have that benchmark and sort of sidelines about thinking that this isn't a full tuition scholarship. It is scholarship that would help supplement some of the travel. And the payment. So once you agree that, yes, I want to be in the program, I acknowledge that I have tuition coming and is due, we will either receive payment by March 22nd, or we need to sign a payment agreement with you. So there is a place on the application to identify who will be paying for your class tuition. And there's an option of either my employer is paying for it. If your employer is paying for it, we do need a letter from them saying they intend to pay for the tuition. It could be a combination of you will be paying for whatever your tuition, whatever tuition is not covered. So you will be agreeing to set up a payment agreement with us, sort of whatever is left remaining that your employer will not cover, or you will be paying for it out of your own pocket. So either way, we can set up payment agreements that we can collect, lump sums of funds throughout the year, and we will just work with you, and all of those have to be signed by March 22nd. So for those of you getting approval for budgets, that's what that looks like. We need to know by March 22nd what the payment arrangement looks like. Some ideas for support. So we have now been working across the state to try to find some funding to support people in this program. If you are looking for some support, I can sort of help brainstorm what that looks like for you. We do have region-wide sort of buy-in to some of the programs. So if funding is a barrier for you right now, let me know, and I can help you identify if there are some funding streams in your area for Water Leaders applicants. So some examples we have of this is in a specific basin, we have 4 or 5 different organizations that have each put like $500 in to support someone. And so if that doesn't already exist in your area, then maybe that's something that you can go help. So if there's some partner organizations you're working with that you can prove that there's a benefit to them by helping send you through this program, ask them for some smaller amounts of money. Work with other similar like organizations in your watershed to build an annual support for your watershed to be sending someone through the program every year. Solicit board members are always ideas. Ask for them to bite off small pieces. So is there a board member or an organization or even a personal family friend that can cover your hotel costs for one night, things like that. So if you break it down smaller, it's easier to get smaller chunks of support than it would be to get the full tuition covered. Let's see what else. One key, people have been really successful in this if you can provide sort of what they would get in return statements. So if an organization is paying for you to come, are you going to go? Are you willing to present at a board meeting? Or is there a certain challenge in your watershed that collectively organizations are trying to address that you could bring that challenge to water leaders and sort of work through that challenge and find a solution through the learning. So just think about, if people are giving you some financial support, how could you return the favor, and what would you provide to them? Will always help in sort of soliciting the support. So think about that before you are asking some people. But again, we do have some pots of money from across the state for things like this. So if you're curious about, does your area have something like that, let me know, and I can clue you in on what existing small pots of funding are available across the state. So with that, these are our questions. This is our Q&A time, and we are about right on time to be done, but I am going to make sure I go through all the questions that you have asked to make sure that we get these answered. So I've been answering some questions along the way to people privately if they didn't apply to everyone. I'm getting a lot of questions about whether or not the amount of time you've been in the water community qualifies for the program or not. So if that is you, if you're wondering if you meet that 3-year threshold, give me a call and we can talk about it, and I will let you know how that affects your admission. So that would answer a good chunk of the questions. Some other questions I'm getting is, what does the time commitment with homework look like? We load a lot of the homework up front, and so that first chunk of homework before you even start the class is going to be the biggest time commitment, and I would say that that's probably about 4 to 5 hours worth of work. Let me unmute Cheryl really quick so she could weigh in on that, but I would say your biggest time commitment is about 5 hours. We give you a little over a month to complete that before the first session, and then the time commitment in between each session is going to look like you will have a 1-hour phone call or face-to-face meeting with your cohort. You will also have a 1-hour phone call with Cheryl in between, and then I would say the homework in between each session is more like 2 to 3 hours. And again, I'd say looks like because we sort of adapt it as we go. But Cheryl, do you have any big picture comments on the time commitment for homework?
I was just going to say that one of the nice things that Stephanie has added is we delineate on the agenda, which you get the agenda for all 4 sessions, the amount of time to anticipate for each of the blocks of homework. I would say that between session 1 and session 2, it's a little bit more in that you've got an additional assessment to complete the Harrison, and then you also schedule a 2-hour in-depth assessment review meeting with me where we go over the results of any 360 results in the Harrison. So rather than having 1 hour for coaching, we really do, to quote Mark, a deeper dive. But what's nice is once you get the agenda, you can pretty much orchestrate your entire calendar on how much time to save for homework as we identify that up front.
Awesome. All right. So another question is, how are the shadowing assignments? How does that work? So we will start diving into shadowing assignments during day 1. And what this looks like is we help you think through what benefits you would like to see, or sort of how you would like to capitalize on this opportunity of being able to shadow or seek advice from either someone that you've looked up to or someone that you would like to learn more about. And we have a full list of people that have shadowed in the past. But we create a good chunk of time in the agenda for you to brainstorm with us using that list, as well as all the other people in the class on sort of who are the best people to shadow. And so we spend some time really targeting what that looks like for you, and it's very personalized. So there is support on identifying who your shadow assignments will be. Let's see. what if we have already taken the assessment? So Cheryl did. She listed out the assessments that you will have to take as part of this program. Myers-Briggs, for example, a lot of people have taken. And so if you've already taken it, that is okay. There is a question in the application that asks if you've taken any of these assessments, and it provides you the opportunity to explain how you think this program and retaking those assessments will benefit you, and how you anticipate applying yourself to the program using those assessments. So if you've taken it, it's okay. Cheryl, anything else on that if they've taken the assessments before?
You know, a lot of people will shift and change. For example, on the Strength Finder, the top 5 strengths can shift and change based upon the role you're in at work and based upon what's being called forth. Same with Myers-Briggs. You may have scored as a ENTJ, and it was a couple of years ago. You take it again and go, wow, I've moved from being an extrovert to an introvert. How fascinating. So they're not static. They change as you change and grow. So I usually recommend that you jump in and do it again just because it's fun to track your growth.
Awesome. All right, another question I got was on the recommendation letters. So can this be internal or external to your organization? Yeah, so this could be anyone. So if there is a leadership role you have in the community, on a board, a nonprofit, that type of thing, yes, please. Like whoever can speak to your role in the water community the best. It can be internal or external from your organization. It does not matter. Just either way, they have to send it directly to me and not get to me from you. Let's see. One question is that there is an impression that Water Leaders has a regional focus every year. Is this year's focus the Front Range? And so Water Leaders does not historically have or it's not regionally focused every year. We do change the locations every year just to, provide some diversity of location, and we do field trips and maybe some excursions, some class rafting trips we did last year. And so we change up the location every year. But the same principles, practices, skills, everything we learn is the same. The only thing that will change is that if we bring in a leader from the community to drive home that lesson, or like Cheryl talked about, the unplugged sessions with past water leaders, that will change based off the geographic area. But the program itself does not have a regional focus every year, but our water fluency program does. So I can definitely say that regional focus every year is more for our water fluency program and not the water leaders program. Let's see. Let me see if there are any other questions coming in. I guess I want to open up real quick. I know that the homework commitment and the time commitment to the program is always a big concern. And so I don't know if Kate or Mark does have anything to add to that as far as what that looked like for you and how you balanced it. If you have any thoughts or advice on how you managed your time with being in the program and still working and, living your life. Do you guys have any thoughts on that or advice? You guys
sure,
are both
this is Mark.
So go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's likely cliche, but it really rings true for the Water Leaders program. What you put in is what you get out. And, as far as the commitment goes, yes, there's a time commitment for both the homework and the sessions. And I won't lie to tell you that, I was always 100% prepared for every single session. But like I said, you get what you put in. And so the homework really shouldn't be viewed as an academic exercise, and the assignments are not busy work. When you really take the time and engage, you get a lot out of the homework, and then you bring that to the session, and it really builds on itself. So during the process, I had to keep reminding myself that this was an investment in myself, and I was glad that I did it. From a personal perspective, communicating what I was getting out of the class and with my wife and her, allowing me to take that time actually spurred her to do something similar. She's doing a personal development thing herself. So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, it's a stress on your family. Yes, it's a commitment, but it's worth it.
Awesome, thanks. Kate, anything else to add?
No, I think Mark said it perfectly. It's not a burden. It's an investment. It's part of the process. And I think what I learned was that I just made Water Leaders a priority over the course of the 6 months, and that paid off in much bigger ways than the amount of time I took to put into the homework. So it's more than worth it.
Awesome, thanks. All right, I think we have one other question. What if we don't get into the program? Should we reapply? That is something I should have mentioned, so thanks for asking. Most of the people applying, well, I would say about a third of the people applying every year are repeat applicants. So we have about 40-ish, 45 people that apply every year to the program, and there's only 16 seats. So with that, yes, we do encourage you to apply if you haven't got in. If this is, you have applied in the past and you're looking how to maybe beef up your application, I'm happy to answer any of those questions as well. But yes, if you don't get in, do not get discouraged. Repeat applicants, I applied twice to get in the program, for example. So yes, definitely apply again. Let's see, and I think that's it. I'm reading through all these questions. I think we've answered them at some point throughout the webinar. If I haven't answered your question, then email me, call me. I want to make sure I do answer it. With that, this is my contact information. I want to know we do have new email addresses and a new website. So if you are emailing our old email addresses, it will come through to us, but this is all of our new contact information, as well as here is Cheryl, Mark, and Kate's contact information. So if you have questions specifically for them or want to pick their brain a little bit more on anything, they have graciously offered to talk with any of you. As you can tell, there is no short of excitement for all of us talking about the program. And with that, we are done. So I think we went a little bit over, but thank you all for being with us today, for your interest in the program. If there are any additional questions, please reach out. You still have a couple weeks before applications are due, so I'm happy to guide anyone through that process. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for your continued support of the program and for providing such insight today. And also thank you, Mark and Kate, for sharing your experiences with everyone. I know it was very helpful, and it is rewarding for me to hear, even now, months later, that you still are using Water Leaders skills and practices. So thanks so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a great holiday season coming up here. And yeah, reach out if you have questions. Otherwise, that's a wrap, and happy application writing. Thanks so much.